back. Will Worsham joins me again for another Speaking Legal discussion. And welcome back, Will. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
You know, last week we talked about the woman whose spouse had died, and she was going to have to declare bankruptcy. She wanted to be able to keep her car, blah, blah, blah. And out of all that you told me, the one thing I got was there is no easy answer, so you should plan ahead. And that's kind of what you're here to talk about.
Yeah,
today.
let's talk about that a little bit this week.
All right, how can you avoid all these pitfalls?
Well, there's a lot of different aspects to estate planning. I mean, there's things traditionally that people think about, like having a will, having a trust, and all that stuff. That sort of contemplates there's some assets to take care of. Of course, in the situation we looked at last week, those weren't there.
Right.
So one of the really critical components in something like that is going to be maybe some life insurance, or having some set aside or some retirement. That goes beyond the legal. That goes into just good financial planning and some things like that. And life insurance is an important estate planning tool, especially if you don't have any assets or any other things.
Sure, that could be the largest thing that you leave to your family.
It is, and it's something that a lot of people use for that. You know, the other options are there's some really, if you have the means, some really great things you can do with some trusts, some estate planning. There's a really neat tool called a charitable remainder trust, where like if you've invested in, say, residential real estate over the course of your life, and if you've done that correctly, then you've been using the income off of that to pay the houses down so that in a few 10, 15 years, you've got a house that's completely paid for. You can actually take that house, donate it to what's called a charitable remainder trust, get an immediate tax benefit for that. The house is sold, the money goes into the trust. The trust then is administered by a trust company. It invests the funds. It pays out according to the trust document you create every year to you while you're still alive. And then after you die, it will then pay out to your heirs for their lifetime, and then at the end of their lifetime, that charitable remainder trust can dissolve, and the principal of it goes to a charity of your choosing.
Oh, okay, without touching that principal, then, basically, is the way you set it
Well,
up.
the principal ultimately will go to charity.
Yes,
that's what makes
at the end,
at the end, but you get to live off some of the income and your heirs, so that's a really cool estate planning tool for someone that has assets.
Right. Now, see, that's what I was going to ask, because as soon as you say estate planning, I think people think that you have to have a mansion and cars and this, but really, so many people, because you mentioned life insurance, they do leave something.
Yes, and there's about 3 different ways that estate planning can take place. One is what traditionally, like we talked about, people think of just having a will. Now, one of the reasons that a lot of people get into estate planning or want to do that, beyond caring for their loved ones, is we want to avoid some of the expense in that situation, like probate, taxes, and things like that. One thing everybody, this is my educational piece I want everybody to know.
Here it is. You got about 40 seconds.
Okay. A will does not avoid probate. It still has to go through probate. It just tells a probate judge what to do with the assets. You still have to pay all the costs associated with probate. If you want to avoid probate, 2 ways to do that. One, you can use a trust, a revocable living trust that lets you have control of your assets, but distributes them through the power of a trustee after your death, after you pass on. The other is, maybe you don't have the assets that you think you need a trust document like that. You can use Missouri's non-probative transfer law. Payable on death, transfer on death, beneficiary deeds. Anything that has a title can be titled with something like that that's going to avoid probate, still get your assets to the people you want them to go to.
All right, and I'm hearing once again, as whenever we talk, it's a good idea to speak to an attorney. If you have a legal question for Will, just send him an email at wworsham@color10.com, and we're going to answer those right here on air. Will, thank you so much. Good hearing from you again. All right, we'll be back with more after this. Stick around.